hey, it's Kelly. That's me. Mama on a mission, living life free. Faith in my heart, yeah, that's my lead. If you need a look, come follow me.
Hello. This is probably not the video that you're expecting, but I thought, okay, I'm gonna sit down and have an honest conversation and a real conversation, because I don't even know where this video is going, but we are here, we're showing up, we're being present, we're being positive, we're being ourselves. I got my tea, my kids are hopefully settled in, waiting for my hubby to get home, and I just want to sit down and have a real conversation. Sorry, I want to have a real conversation. Not one of those videos where I have everything figured out. I don't. I don't even. Sometimes I think to myself, like, I'm a mom of two, that's crazy. And I don't have life figured out, because I'm still trying to figure out how to be a good mommy, a patient mommy. I'm still trying to figure out, I'm a wife. I'm trying to build my business. I'm trying to build this YouTube channel, guys. Subscribe. I'm trying to show up online. I'm trying to be present with my family and my children. I'm trying to be a good wife. And then I think to myself, like, I'm trying to also grow my business. But I think my main thing is I ultimately want to grow spiritually. This is what this YouTube video, or where I think it's going to go to. So, and I think to myself, like, there's such little aspects. Lord, can't I just choose one? But I guess that's the crazy part about life. Everything happens all together, like being a good wife, building a business, doing this, growing spiritually. And I think to myself, like, I've learned such a lot in this season. And it doesn't look easy. It's not easy, especially if we indirectly compare ourselves to others. Then we think to ourselves, like, your Lord, am I behind? Then you see someone else buying a house, you see someone else's business growing, you see where you're not, you see like someone else traveling, someone else starting a travel agency, someone else is getting married, having 3 kids, and I'm like, comparison, no, not today. And someone else's YouTube channel is growing, and I'm like, okay, someone else's Instagram have more than 1,000 or like 10,000 subscribers, and it's taking off, and I'm just like sitting here like, God, like, I don't want to compare, but what about me? When is it my turn? Yeah. And I think we don't talk often about that trust in God. Even when you're praying, we are still human, I guess, after all. And sometimes we disappoint ourselves and we disappoint others, and we feel disappointed. Sometimes we're confused, even, like, when is my season gonna come? Sometimes you feel tired, like you feel burnt out. And sometimes you don't even understand God. And I think we shouldn't understand, at least, like, we should ask questions, because questions help us grow in our faith, and it brings us closer to God. So yeah, I think I'm going to talk about that today. I want to talk about 10 things I feel God is teaching me now in the season. And some of these are going to be lessons that I've already learned, and some of them I'm still learning. So have grace with me. I'm still understanding, I'm still growing. So yeah, so don't think that this is a finished product. It's not. I feel like we are both learning. So let us have a cup of tea and let's get into it. The first thing God is teaching me right now is that His timing is not my timing. I think this has probably been one of the biggest seasons in my life, because God's timing is ultimately perfect. I trusted God for a house 4 years ago, and He's granted us a house now. Like, I like having goals. I love making lists, if you know me personally. I like having a vision. then actually getting there, I'm like, God, He gave me this promise, He gives me this desire, this dream, and He doesn't give it on our timeline. He gives it on His timeline. And that's the part that sometimes us as humans struggle with. Because I'll have something in my heart and I think like, yo Lord, when is it gonna happen? You promised, you made it so clear for me. And then you start looking at, then I personally start looking around. And then you're suddenly comparing yourself to others. Yeah, someone else's chapters. And someone else's season. When I'm on chapter 1 and they're on chapter 10. And I'm like, and I don't even realize what He is doing. Yes.
First thing that I've been learning in this season is that God's timing is not my timing. And I think that's probably one of the hardest things for me personally. Because I'm very, okay, what's the plan? Let's stick to it. Let's do it kind of person. And I like knowing what I'm doing, when I'm doing it, and why I'm doing it. I like having goals, I like having vision, I like knowing where I'm going. And then God is like, oh, okay, is that how you want to be? Is that it now? Because sometimes I have this idea in my head that I think my life should look like. And then I look around and I see other people doing things, building things, achieving things, and I start wondering, like, what about me, Jesus? And I think social media makes everything even heightened and stronger, because you can literally open Instagram for 5 minutes and suddenly someone is buying the dream house, someone's business is just boosting, someone is traveling and someone is getting opportunities, someone's YouTube channel is growing, and I'm like, and I'm sitting here thinking, am I behind? But I'm learning that someone else's timeline is not evident that I'm behind. I have to remind myself that I'm looking at someone else's chapter 10 while I'm living in my own chapter. And I don't know what happened in the first 9 chapters, so why am I comparing? I don't know their praise. I don't even know their struggles or their rejection or even their sacrifices. I don't know the nights they cried out. I just see the results, and we all do when we look at social media. And sometimes I think we compare our beginning to someone else's finished, beautiful product. So I'm trying to stop doing that. I'm trying to remind myself that God exactly knows. He knows where I'm at. And maybe I don't even need to rush through my season right now, because I'm excited about the next one. I'm going to be excited about the next one. Maybe there's something I'm supposed to learn first in the season, even though I feel impatient. Maybe there's something God is trying to build in me before He builds around me. Hallelujah. Can I get an amen? And that's hard because I want results. I guess that's human nature. I want to see progress. I want to know that all my effort is finally and actually going somewhere. But then again, faith steps in. Faith is actually trusting God, even when we can't see it yet.
And I think that leads me to the second thing I've been learning. Being still does not mean I'm doing nothing. Because I think we live in a world where productive equals identity, especially if you're not a born again or Christian person. What you get done during the day, how much things you get ticked off on your checklist, how much money you make, how much bookings you get done, and how much content you create and push out. And sometimes I can have a full day and still sit in bed and think like, I didn't even do enough. But ultimately, when I think back, motherhood has really changed that for me. Because sometimes the most important things I do in a day are the things that nobody sees.
like feeding my baby and making sure I'm holding him and just small talk with him, or even just putting him to sleep and being present. None of these things are going to show up on my productivity app or on social media, but they matter. And I think I've learned that my value isn't based on how much I accomplish or complete in my to-do list, because I constantly am chasing the next thing. And I think most of us humans are. And I can actually miss what's happening right in front of me. And that brings me to another thing. God uses my ordinary days. I used to think that the big moments are the most important moments, like launching my business made such a big thing, or like the anniversary of reaching 2 years in business. I made such a big deal. The big events, the huge announcements, the milestones, yes, it does matter, but does it really? But most of our lives aren't even made up of those big moments. It's made up of that ordinary afternoon playing with my children on the grass, walking with my baby, making a cup of tea, or even answering a message of a friend. Yeah, it can sometimes also look like me cleaning equipment, which I do on a regular, or running my business, getting everyone where they need to be. And maybe those ordinary moments aren't interruptions of my life. Maybe it is my life. And it is my life right now. And I don't want to be focused on building my future and miss being present with my children. Because one day when I look back at this exact season, I might wish I could come back to this ordinary, boring afternoon. Or that one more walk in the pram. Or one more little baby moment when I just smile and laugh at them. Or one day where he needed me this much. So I'm trying to notice it all, even in the ordinary boring days, even when I feel like I should be doing something else or a bit more. Maybe this is something, and maybe this is something more. Maybe this is part of my story, I don't know. Maybe God is teaching me that not everything meaningful looks impressive or over the top. Yeah. The next thing I'm learning is that I don't have to have everything figured out. And honestly, thank the Lord I don't, because I really don't. I have all the ideas, especially when you're a business owner, thinking at 3 o'clock at night what I can do, what I can change, what I can improve. And sometimes I feel like I should have this perfect 5 year plan, but honestly, I don't. I don't even know what the next month is going to look like. But it's okay, because if I knew how everything is going to happen, where would my faith come in? And faith requires some uncertainty. And it's super uncomfortable, because when you're someone like me that likes to plan, I'm learning that I don't need to have the whole staircase. I just need to know and just need to do the next step, the next small step. And if that requires me to make one post a week, so be it. Or answer that phone call, or even just take my child for a walk and show up and pray. Try again tomorrow. That is still progress. And I think sometimes we underestimate the small steps, because we so focus on the impressive big moments, big things, and we sometimes feel like it doesn't feel that impressive. But the small steps repeated over time and constant consistency in the right direction, that's exactly what I want. And if I get it wrong, I can adjust. And if the plan changes, I can change with it too. If something doesn't work, Lord, let me learn from it. Changing direction does not automatically mean that I'm failing in life. And I think that's hard to, that's something I'm trying to understand. Sometimes it means you know more than you did before. It's learning, it's being teachable. And I'm learning to be okay with it, because I think sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves to have the answers, like to think that we're moving forward, when God really is asking us for us to trust Him with the next steps. And that's what I'm praying and I'm trusting God to. I don't need to know if Bella's Playhaven is going to look like this in 5 years. You know what I mean? I don't need to know where this YouTube thing is actually going to take me. All I need to do is show up and be consistent. And make small steps. I don't need to know what every opportunity looks like. I just want to be obedient and trust Him and have faith. I just need to keep showing up, keep learning, keep praying, and keep doing the next right thing. Another big one for me is comparison. And this one is going to hit hard, because
Comparison is so sneaky. It's like thief in the night, like when you least expect it, when you're scrolling on social media. And it's not always, I want that life that a person has on social media. Sometimes it sounds more like, why isn't my business even growing like hers? Or why aren't my videos looking like hers? Or why doesn't this feel or seem like I have everything together? Why am I not even there yet? And before I know it, or you know it, you're looking at someone else's life and suddenly like comparing yours, like it's, yeah. And then I have to remind myself, I am looking at their highlight reels. Their beautiful reels. While I'm living inside my behind the scenes. You know, the uncomfortable, the raw, the nasty, the everything. And those two things are completely different. And I think especially difficult and different when you're building something online. Because I want Bella's Play Haven to grow. I want my business to grow. I want more bookings. I want to build something that I'm proud of. But I also want to grow this YouTube channel. And I want to create content that reaches people. I want to build a community. And of course, I want subscribers. Yeah, 2,000, you know what I mean? The views or the growth. I'm not going to just sit here and pretend I don't. But I don't want the numbers to be my identity. And I refuse to, because numbers can mess with your head. And you can post something and immediately start checking, oh, how many views, how many likes, how many subscribers. And suddenly the algorithm has decided whether or not you're having a good day or bad day. And I refuse that. And that is crazy, because I know some people do that. Because behind all of those numbers are real people that are watching. And if one person watches something I make and thinks, okay, I'm not only going through this alone, and then that's going to matter to me. Because I'm not here to just make sure the numbers are matching up and I'm getting subscribers. I want this to mean something, because I'm building, I'm dreaming, and I want growth, but I'm also learning to not despise my small beginnings, because everything that starts small will eventually be big if I'm consistent. And Bella's Play, even like I always say, started with a dream. This YouTube channel started with me simply wanting to encourage people, to tell people about Jesus, to share my truth, to share God's truth. And I think sometimes we forget about beginning and how it's supposed to look like. It doesn't have to look like a perfect final version. I just have to keep on going. And then there's one of the hardest parts of faith, when you don't have an answer. Because I love answers. I want to know why. I want to know, why is it taking so long? Why hasn't this happened? What am I supposed to do next? Where is this going? Sometimes I pray like, what, Lord? Where do I go? Sometimes you pray and you wait and you wait and you wait, and nothing seems to change. I used to think to myself like, silence means that God wasn't listening to me. Do I need to repent? Am I sinful? But I'm actually learning that silence does not mean his absence. Sometimes God doesn't give you an explanation. Sometimes he gives you peace, contentment, and that is completely different kind of faith. Because it's easy to trust God when you even know the outcome. The real test is trusting him when you don't. When you're standing in the middle of your chaos or middle of your story, when you don't know what the next chapter is going to look like, when you have the dreams, but you don't know how to get there, when you're building a business and you don't know how big it will become, when you're trying to figure out what your purpose looks like in a crazy season, and you just have to say to yourself, okay, God, I don't understand this, but I trust you. And that's the prayer that I've been learning. God, not just God, give me what I want, but God, prepare me for what you have for me. Give me wisdom, give me patience, give me discernment. Help me to know what is exactly from you and what is pleasure. Help me not to confuse being busy with being productive. Help me not to confuse popularity with purpose. Help me to enjoy my life while I'm building it. Because I don't want to spend my entire life waiting for the next chapter. I want to live for this one. Even though I don't know what the future or next month is going to look like. I want to be able to look back, and I want to know that I didn't spend my whole life worrying about seasons or about the next season.
I want to know that I prayed, I trusted, I showed up, I loved my family, I worked hard, I made mistakes, I learned, I kept going. And maybe I don't have every answer right now. Maybe I just need to have enough faith for today. That brings me to the biggest thing I've been learning. The season is not wasted. Yes, not wasted. The waiting isn't wasted. The ordinary days aren't wasted. Me looking after my son for 2 years aren't wasted. The small beginnings of Bella's Playhaven aren't wasted. The failed ideas aren't wasted. The moments where I felt behind aren't wasted. Even the days where I feel like I didn't want to accomplish anything besides change my son's nappies aren't wasted. Because God can use it all. Maybe one day when I look back and I understand why certain things took longer than I wanted them to, maybe I won't even understand everything. Maybe I won't even understand anything. But I hope I'll look back and I'll realize that I became somebody different through it all. And when I say different, I mean more patient, more grounded, more compassionate, more loving, more dependent, and more present. And maybe that's the real growth of it all. Not just getting the thing that I prayed for or you prayed for, but becoming the person you actually can carry it when it comes. So if you're watching this and you feel behind, I really want you to hear this. You are not behind. You are living your life. You're still becoming. You're still learning. You're still growing. And maybe your season doesn't look that impressive from the outside. Maybe it feels slow and boring and ordinary. Maybe you're raising your children and that's it. But maybe you're building something even from scratch, or you need to rebuild your life. Maybe you're just waiting for an answered prayer. Or maybe you're just putting down your roots. Maybe God is preparing you for something. Maybe there are things happening underneath the surface that you can't even see. Maybe you're exactly where God needs you to be right now. I definitely don't have it all figured out or all together, but I'm still figuring out my business. I'm still trying to figure out this YouTube channel.
Wow,
I'm
you
still
figuring
figuring
it
out
out.
what the next chapter looks like. But maybe that's what this channel is going to be. Me not pretending I have everything figured out, but me inviting you along the way while we figure it out together. The wins, the failures, the faith, the motherhood, the business, the random cups of tea in a random YouTube video, the days where I feel motivated, and the days where I'm like, yo, Lord, please help me because I honestly don't know what I'm doing even. And maybe that's okay. Showing up imperfectly, but yet we're still showing up. So if you're in a season like this too, I hope you know that you are not alone. You don't have to have everything figured out. You don't have to rush. You don't have to become somebody else. Just take the next step. Just take the next step. Trust God and give yourself enough grace because you're probably doing better than you think you are. Anyway, ciao ciao and don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Bye bye.